Morning. Going live. Hey, setting things up for the upcoming weekend. This time, exactly this time, next weekend, I will be beginning my 3-hour workshop for It's Not Cheating. I should pop that into the chat because that's what I should be doing right now. There we go. Right there. I'll be starting my 3-hour workshop for It's Not Cheating weekend, which is starting actually on Friday night. Hello, Sabyasachi. Lovely to see you. We'll be starting on Friday night with attorney Lady Steele talking about the law and non-monogamy and the types of things that you might want to do to get your affairs in order if you are partnering with more than one person. And then Saturday morning at this time, 10 a.m. Eastern, I will be kicking the weekend off with 3 hours of a workshop called Non-Monogamy, I Do What I Want, and You Can Too, which Sabyasachi, Cobalt, I know those two of you that have said hello in the chat, you know my theory of building your relationship within the sweet spot. Non-monogamy, I do what I want, and you can too, is all about that. It's about creating relationships, specifically non-monogamous relationships, that where we're doing what we want. We're creating relationships that we actually want in our lives. So yeah, super excited about that. And then Sunday at this time, I will be starting. What will I be starting? I know I've got a boundaries. Oh, asymmetrical and unequal non-monogamy, talking about making relationships, power exchange relationships, or non monogamous relationships that have a power differential component work. What makes them ethical? What makes them unethical? How to make them work? How to work through issues, and so on and so forth. That'll be 1.5 hours. And then I will follow that up with boundaries in non monogamy, another 1.5 hours. So 10 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern next weekend, both Saturday and Sunday, I will be teaching workshops for It's Not Cheating. And again, that's 100% free to attend live. Just right there. All you got to do is register. And remember, this Monday, the 23rd, we'll actually be starting the sort of pregame for that. And we will be gearing up with the non-monogamy 5-day challenge. So super excited about that. Cobalt, I did not get my hair done so much as I finally trimmed my bangs after my surgery. And yeah, so I'm having a good hair day. Thank you for noticing. So let's talk a little bit about ethical and consensual non-monogamous practices when it comes to things like hooking up, sluttery, right? Playing around, one night stands, whatever it is that you're into. Now, let me be clear. I know there are people out there who think none of this is ethical, right? Their moral structure says that having sex or intimate relations, however you want to call it, with more than one person is unethical in and of itself. That's fine. You do you. I'm okay with you making choices for yourself. I'm not here to try to tell you what you should be doing, right? Curiouser as a concept, which, for those of you who don't know, Curiouser is kind of like the overall brand I'm putting together to sort of cover everything that I'm interested in and everything that a lot of other people are curious about. Curiouser as a concept is about you want more out of your life, love, romance, kink, everything. You're curiouser. right? So my goal is to give you thought ideas, and resources and ways of looking at the world, and for you, whoever you are, wherever you are in your life, to pick and choose the parts that will help you build your best life, right? So I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not trying to shove, like wild sex parties and orgies on you. I don't care if you do that. What I care about is that you're able to build the life that works for you. And in some cases, for some people, that includes casual sex. And sometimes for me, it includes casual sex. And I'm okay with this for me, and I'm okay with what you choose for you. The key for me is that if you're going to be doing any sort of casual sex, hookups, one night stands, pump them and dump them, whatever it is, that you do it as ethically and consensually as possible. And that's what we're here talking about today. Because some of you know that I've dabbled more than a little, right, in non monogamy, in asymmetrical non monogamy, in having thirds or group fun. And sometimes, as I've talked to people who sort of provide that third, or participate a lot in the group fun, the single people, and so on and so forth, they feel oftentimes like they're kind of being used. They're not, and being used is not necessarily the right term. They're not being treated in it as a human, right? They're being treated like kind of like as a toy, as a prop. I've heard people call them stunt cocks or well, toys, right? And if you're into that and you negotiate that, good for you. But if not, then there are other ways to go around this. In fact, recently here locally, there's been an issue with somebody who got into a relationship with somebody else, and they started calling this person without their consent a bull, and trying to, get them to sort of participate in public scenes with them from the perspective of that masculine third bull perspective. And this person had not signed up for that at all, didn't negotiate it, didn't agree to it, felt dehumanized by that, and said so. And the original person was like, but you shouldn't feel bad about this. This is awesome. This is a compliment. This is what you are to me. That is exactly the opposite of what I mean by doing your hookups, your, play ethically and consensually. So, yeah. Cobalt says, I want to be used like a fleshlight, but guys often think that means insulting or spanking. I'm like, bruh, I ain't never treated my vibrator like that. Yeah, I mean, it's when we talk about the things that people get into, and oh my gosh, it is a crazy variety of what people get into with each other, what pleases people. Even treating somebody badly, slapping somebody's face, which a friend of mine just found out that they really enjoyed this past weekend, got a chance to try it out in a very strongly negotiated scene and really enjoyed it. There are ways to do it ethically and consensually that allow everyone to take part in the fun and do what they want, right? And I feel like it's very strange when I say to people that, ethical and consensual applies to your hookups and your fly by night play partners and so on and so forth. It's strange that I need to say this, right? And but I've gotten like messages from people online that are like, "Hi, We're an experienced couple looking for a unicorn with no drama. If interested, let us know. And okay, first of all, they were obviously scattershotting that message to any picture that they might have even the modicum of attraction to, because there is nothing in any of my profiles anywhere ever to suggest that I'm a unicorn. In fact, quite the opposite, right? Like, I actually actively dislike being approached by couples, although there's no way to be sure that this was a couple, because, could be just a dude sort of like trying to like get that thing, but whatever. Let's just say it's a couple. I actively avoid connecting with couples unless it happens organically, because that's a lot to try to get to know two people at exactly the same rate and like them exactly the same amount and whatever. Then I look at their profile and it had all the red flags. Like, this was like a bullfight party going on here, right? Like, there was the whole nothing can come between us line. There was looking for someone who is a true unicorn and knows her role line. Holy fudge balls, y'all. Holy fudge balls. But I digress. Here's the thing. I see this often enough in poly, kinky, non-monogamy interactions, where it's the primary, right? The life mate, the couple, the potential lifelong, they get all of the effort, all of the communication, all of the respect. And the other parties get, well, whatever. Oh, I have time for you. Here, let me send a couple of texts saying how hot you are. Want to come over and play in 2 nights? Right? Like, eh. So, let's see what we've got. Yes. Twoo unicorn. Very, very important. Womanopolis, hello. I have a BDSM account on Instagram that Insta has shut down 6 times, and during 3 years, I only received 2 women who liked it. Instagram isn't a dating site. Oh, you had said, I feel for me finding a BDSM partner is like looking for a unicorn. Yeah, but Instagram isn't a dating site. Why would you try to be using Instagram to find dates or partners? Like, that's A, it's not what it's for, and B, Instagram is not a fan of BDSM in general. Like, that is the wrong place to be looking. It just is. There are so many better options out there to get connected and do the things, right? So, yeah, anyway. Let's go back to, here's the thing. Hooking up, bringing in a third, one night stands, whatever. Whether you're a couple, whether you're single, whether you're in, a multiple life situation, whatever it is, treat every person, every single human that you engage with consent and consideration. Whether you're planning on boinking them until they cry wolf, being boinked until you pass out, whether you're planning on maybe building a life with them, whether you're picking up your coffee from them at the local Star Chucks or whatever it is. That's ethical. That is consent. And sure, before you say it, because I know that people do this and they may not treat you with ethics and consent in return because frankly, people are shitty, especially let me just throw that out there, especially non-curiouser people, right? They're shitty. They're in their heads, they're judgmental, they're closed-minded, and frankly, they're all wrapped up in being whatever. But that's not the point. Ethics and consent are how I choose to act. What you do in response, that's all you. You see where I'm coming from? Again, those of you who follow me are going to hear this a gazillion times. Boundaries and ethics, two sides of the same coin. How I allow people to treat me, what I want from people to make my life amazing and fulfilled. I have to give that to other people. And if they reject it, that's their problem, not mine. Right? I will treat them with kindness and compassion and ethics and consent because that's who I am as a person. That's what I offer to the world. I'm not in charge of them. And if they want to be shitty butt wipes, they can be shitty butt wipes. They'll be shitty butt wipes without me in their life because as soon as they do that, I'm like, sayonara, jerkwad. So what is ethical and consensual when it comes to hookups? You got any chat? What's ethical and consensual to you when it comes to hookups? Hello, Jenna. Lovely to see you. Which is your favorite BDSM app? And you had also said that Instagram has lots of BDSM accounts, Womanopolis. Yeah, Instagram does have lots of BDSM accounts. Facebook has lots of BDSM accounts too. They don't like it. They merely tolerate it until they get reported enough. And neither Facebook nor Instagram are dating apps. They're social sites. Instagram specifically for images and video, and Facebook for, I don't know, life stuff. But what makes a connection with another human, specifically focusing in on casual sex, what makes that ethical and consensual? Well, I said one of them. Ethical, treating people with compassion. Ooh, Jenna, honesty. Yeah. Honesty, being honest, but more than being honest, being forward about specific things. For example, I am HSV1 positive. I was born with it. Herpes simplex 1, that's where you get like cold sores. Now, granted, they say that something like 83% of the population probably has it. However, what 83% of the population has is none of my beeswax, right? What I have is my responsibility. So I tell people, HSV1 positive. I'm very clear about it. I'm very open about it. I have not had a breakout since I was 16. But between 14 and 16, I had a ton of them because apparently sometimes when you're born with it and then you start going through puberty, it really stresses you out and you have a lot of breakouts. I have not had a breakout since I was 16. I have not, as far as I know, ever transmitted it to anybody. I'm also not on antivirals though. And so I tell people, hey, if you're going to kiss me and do all the fun things, just so you know, I have never to this date had anyone turn me down for that, but it is important that it be discussed, right? Yeah. Roger, I still don't find it ethical. However, it seems to me everyone deserves to be treated with respect. What don't you find ethical, Roger? You said it. Are you saying non-monogamy in general is not ethical? Because I know that you've participated in it, right? Like you and your ex had consensual non-monogamous relations. You just didn't like the way she ended up cheating and lying anyway. Am I wrong about that? Because I could be way, way off. But yeah, I'd be interested. What do you not find ethical at all? And again, how do you define ethical when it comes to ethics are when you agree to things together? I don't know. You tell me. Jenna says FetLife for BDSM. The challenge with FetLife is also not a dating app. And for a lot of people, it can get really, really hard to connect on FetLife. FetLife is not intuitive for many people. And if you're not really good at the whole online social media thing, that's tough. But I did a chit chat in December about using online to connect with people through FetLife, through Discord, through dating apps, and so on and so forth. But yeah. Cobalt says, if you say you want no strings attached, but but are a marionette, not so cool. Absolutely true. So that's a huge key. You know, stick with what you say. And I'm not saying, so this is key. If you say you want a no strings attached casual sex relationship, that doesn't mean you're not allowed to catch feelings. You absolutely are allowed to catch feelings. You're just not allowed to then make those feelings someone else's responsibility, because that is not ethical, right? So I have fallen in love with you, therefore you must whatever, whatever, whatever. That doesn't work. That's not ethical. It's also not consensual because that other person agreed to whatever relationship you have as NSA. So for you to try to force a change because you're feeling some sort of way, not consensual, not ethical. I have a channel on X Hamster. I can say that what turns you on, it will turn on others 100%. Sure. Oh, sure. Jenna, my ex was not ethical. I had to worry about and protect myself just assuming he wasn't. It was scary. Now I have trust issues getting out there. Absolutely. And that's a big reason why I, as an individual, an autonomous individual, I put forward the way I treat people. I make that upfront, right? And when I say to somebody, hey, I'm really big into consent. And, you know, just so you know, I'll be checking in with you to make sure that like we're doing the consensual thing every now and again. And if they go, that's ridiculous. That just, why would you do that? That just kills the mood. Oh, well, for me, I like it. I think it's awesome and hot. And I might have additional conversation with them, but to me, red flag, right? Because not only am I thinking now that they're not going to check in with me if things start getting a little bit like close to a boundary or, something that we haven't discussed or whatever, but I also know that if I do it with them, they are going to scoff, right? So that's another part of being ethical and consensual when you're interacting with people. When you put your ethics and your consent practices at the forefront, people who don't live that way will often reveal themselves, right? And then you get to know. What else is ethical and consensual? Well, talking about protection. How are you going to protect yourself from STIs, STDs, from pregnancy, right? Talking about language used, right? If you're going into something, if you really, really, really don't like to be called certain pet names, if you hate it when they're like smacking that ass and being like, who owns this, whatever it is. And you're like, biatch, I am 49 years old. I own that. Get off me. We got to have a talk, right? Talking about that ahead of time is also ethical and consensual, right? Speaking up and saying, look, what I'd really like to do tonight is this, 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 and this. I am really, really not into this. And these things, possibly on the table. Let's check in if we get close to doing any of those, right? When you are upfront, honest, and open with your desires, people have the opportunity to respond to you in exactly the same way or not, right? And most people who are not ethical or not consensual, most of them will give themselves away. So being ethical and consensual is not only the right thing to do from a compassionate and kind and treat others in the way that you would love to be treated sort of way, but also because being clearly ethical and consensual yourself weeds out a lot of the people who think that's dumb, right? Or don't want to bother with that. Sabyasachi, can you explain a bit about the difference between social media sites and dating sites? Well, yes. Okay. So, first, huge difference. On a social media site, people aren't necessarily there to date, right? And that seems obvious, but the point of a dating site or a connecting site of some sort is for people to meet new people for dating or for friendship or whatever, right? That is the whole point. So everybody who is on a dating site is theoretically open to dating, open to meeting new people. So I run a local Discord server for our local community here in the Triangle. And it is specifically for people who want to meet others. Now, it's not really a dating community, but it is a community where people are open and friendly to newcomers and welcome them in and try to show them the ropes and so on and so forth, because They want to meet people for friendship, for play, for kinky stuff, for relationships, or whatever, right? So you've got social media where people are on social media for a variety of reasons. I tend to stay on Facebook not only because I enjoy like sort of seeing what comes into my feed, but also to keep up with my family, right? But when people approach me on Facebook about like dating or whatever, I'm like, what gave you the idea that this was the place to do it? Because I do not post on Facebook like I'm looking for dates. And it's creepy AF when people like come into my inbox and they're like, "You're very attractive. I would love to get to know you." Ah, ew. Like, what that's like coming into my place of work and trying to hit on me. Like, I'm not here for this, buddy. Like, this is not my headspace. So, and I'm not on Facebook for people to sexually objectify me or whatever. That's not what I'm there for. I'm not saying people are not there. That it's the same thing with FetLife. People are on FetLife to find partners. People are on FetLife to meet people for kink, sex, whatever. But that's not what the site is built for. And many of the people there are not looking. And to treat them as if they are is not awesome, right? Whereas on dating sites, people are generally looking or at least open to possibilities because they're there. Also, dating sites specifically have things like they put up things like what are your roles? How do you identify yourself? What do you look like in relationships? Like what do your relationships look like, and so on and so forth. So you actually can like learn a little bit more about how people relationship on a dating site versus on a social site. The other thing is like, so you've got your social sites, you've got your dating sites, and then you have things like Adult Friend Finder, which is the goal there is not to date. The goal there is generally sex, intimacy, fun times, whatever. It's not to say that there aren't people on Adult Friend Finder also open to love, but that's not the point behind Adult Friend Finder. Okay. The point behind Adult Friend Finder is to find adult friends to do adult things with, right? So it's a frame of mind. Like, I love food. I love eating food. How I'm going to rate the food in a fast food restaurant versus how I'm going to rate the food made at home by a friend versus how I'm going to rate the food made in a Michelin starred restaurant that, we're paying $600 a meal for or whatever. Three different things. It's not that it's not all food, just like it's not that social media, dating, and Adult Friend Finder type things are not all connection sites. It's just that the mindset, the expectations in each place are radically different. Does that make sense? Roger says, I had threesomes and was never sure I wanted to do it. I agreed because she wanted it. Okay, so now that is definitely unethical. You're not saying, she forced you, but it's unethical if she forced you. It's also now this is going to sound harsh, but it's also from your side agreeing to something that you don't want is not what I would consider ethical. It's not good for you, and it definitely doesn't do good things for your relationship. So, and as you don't have a problem with the sex, but you always felt it would end badly. And obviously with that partner, it did. So you were spot on there, right? Like and it's entirely possible that the issues you had with all of that were because, in your lizard brain, your intuition, your gut was already saying that she was, using this as an excuse to get more than one foot out the door. right? So keep in mind, give yourself huge credit for things like intuition, right? And knowing that that was probably going to end up being an issue. I think a lot of us are not taught about how it feels to be sexualized in the wrong context, like being at work. It seems obvious once you know, but I think many don't. Oh, absolutely. And I don't like to use gender very often. Um, However, when it comes right down to it, femme presenting folks are more likely, like overwhelmingly more likely to be very, very aware of what that feels like and that it is not a compliment when you feel it, right? Like we are every once in a while, even on these lives, somebody will come in and be like, hey, show me your tits, right? And I do actually show my tits on certain platforms because that's a part of my expression, right? It's my sense of self. But here, that is radically inappropriate. It's where you're at. It's how your, how your expectations are set up. And to bring this back to ethical and consensual applying to your hookups, to your casual sex. Again, right? Treat every person you engage with consent and compassion and consideration as you interact with them, regardless of whether you want to have the sexy times with them, whether you want to make the beast with 4 legs or not, right? Whether you want to be friends with them, whether you're just passing by, consider what it means to be human and be kind, right? And if you have things that need to be discussed before you do whatever it is that you might be doing together, be the one to discuss those things. Be the one to make that conversation happen. And if they resist, then your ethics and consent policies have possibly saved you from some not good stuff, right? But how you choose to engage, you get to choose the ethics. You get to choose the consent. And like I said before, they may not treat you that way in return because sometimes people suck. But here, today, I'm going to call out Roger a little bit. We're not talking about your exes. And Jenna, we're not talking about your exes. We're not talking about the people you might meet on dating sites or, we're not talking about anyone else. We're talking about how do we choose to approach these things. And I will tell you, Jenna and Roger, you've probably heard this, but I'm going to say this again. I'm not calling you out to target you. I'm calling you out because I think this is important to say to you. When you begin being very forward with your consent and your ethics, you will start weeding out the people that don't respond immediately and positively towards those efforts. And that's amazing. Because when you are kind and compassionate to somebody and you say, hey, this is something I'd really like to do, and they laugh at the effort you're putting in, you have just avoided a huge huge sinkhole, right? Which is why I focus on talking about you and your ethics, not them and their ethics, right? This is why I talk to you. Because I was at a munch on Thursday, and they were talking about like control in relationships, and I said I don't believe in control. And they looked at me, they're like, "What?" Because they knew I'm a dominant woman. They're like, "What?" I said, "I don't believe in control. I don't believe a human can control another human outside of very specific like brainwashing type tactics." I'm like, "I don't believe in control." They're like, "Well, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "A human can really only control themselves. And that we do highly imperfectly, right? But we can practice and we can get better at offering every engagement, intimate or not, but as much as possible, especially in intimate or sexual or relational, emotional engagements, every opportunity to be ethical and consensual up front. We can do that. We can control our own ethics and our own consent practices. And that's all that we can do. We can't control theirs. But controlling ours and being forward with ours can help us weed out those of the others that aren't going to be good for us, that aren't going to be ethical, that aren't going to be consensual. So, yeah, that's what I had to talk about today. I'm happy to take any questions. Cobalt says, whoo, there was a guy on FET saying all places where adults go are dating sites, and I was appalled. That is coming from a place of privilege, right? That is coming from a place of, I have never, ever been put upon with someone else's sexual or intimate gaze when I didn't want it. Because not all places. Now, all places that adults go could lead to a date. But that's an entirely different feeling. Very, very different. I'm meeting this person and my possibilities are open, right? I am always open to engaging and meeting humans. But to say that every place or every site is a dating site or a dating opportunity puts it way, way more into sort of like the hunt and the predator and prey type of situation. And the expectations are radically different. And that's just wrong. Okay, so this is my last live for this week. Of course, Monday, we're going to start going live with the non-monogamy 5-day challenge. That is free to join. It costs nothing. Right there, free to join. I'm going to be talking about the 5 most critical skills for non-monogamy. So we're going to talk about labels. How do we identify ourselves and how do our partners identify in non-monogamy? We're going to talk about opening up, not just stepping into a new relationship, but also opening up when you have an existing relationship and you're wanting to add more to it. We're going to be talking about the green-eyed monster. So absolutely, of course, we're going to have to talk about jealousy in relationships if we're talking about non-monogamous skills, right? Then we're going to talk about compersion. and how it is not a magic pill, but it is critically important to how we shape our non monogamous relationships. And then on the last day, which is the first day of It's Not Cheating on Friday, we are going to talk about what I consider, me, the most important rules, the best rules to put into place for your non monogamous relationships. So, let's see. And Cobalt asked about the email, hello@curiouser.life, right there. And for those of you who may have questions, whoops, let's see, I have to actually type it in here. For those of you who might have questions and want to text us, right there, 919-299-1108. You can call or text us. Anyone from our team might get that and handle the call or text. So do not hesitate any time of the day or night because, hey, we're there. Also, like I said, hello@curiouser.life. And then check out the challenge at notcheating.com/challenge. Get signed up for It's Not Cheating at notcheating.com. We are super excited about all this. Get into, if you've gotten signed up, but you haven't yet gotten into the community, get into the community, be a part of that. Some of the replays will be posted there. And then, of course, there's the Plus More membership, where for $17, you can get access not only to all of the replays from this It's Not Cheating event, but all of the 13 replays from our It's Not Cheating event in 2020, plus all of the replays of our non-monogam munch, our monthly non-monogam munch, plus access to my book, It's Not Cheating, which I will be rewriting with y'all, and access to non-monogam munch replays going forward. Yeah. Really awesome. And then for $10 more, if you have any partners or friends or close people to you, $10 more can get you 4 people to add in. So all you have to do is give us their names, emails, and their roles, and we will get them added into the Plus More as well. And then we also have a $10 add-on specifically for those who are interested in cuckolding, because we have a lot of information that we've gathered over the years about cuckolding. And so that is going to be a private community there in the system for people who are interested in that. So yeah, I hope you can join us. Again, notcheating.com. Join us this coming weekend for It's Not Cheating, for education, for social events, and for lots of fun and laughter, and for my workshops. Not non-monogamy, I do what I want, and you can too. Asymmetrical and unequal non-monogamy, and boundaries in non-monogamy. So yeah, super excited to have y'all. I am now going to get on with my Saturday morning. I need to get some groceries and plan out some meals and so on and so forth. So I hope you all have an amazing day, and I hope to see you on Monday.